Authority of Love. I'm your host, Greg Williams, and once again, we're with co-host David Walls of the Family Foundation here in Kentucky. David, welcome back again. I know you've been in conference season, so what's that been like for you?
A lot of good information and a lot of talking, Greg.
yeah. Have you caught up on your sleep yet? I guess that'd be the next question, right?
Yeah.
A lot going on.
Yeah. No, it's as I said last week, it's always good to be around folks that are fighting the good fight and to be like-minded.
Yep.
It's so encouraging. So so thankful for the work that we get to do here, but to be a part of a alliance of groups and brothers and sisters of about 40 other state family policy councils that do similar work in their states.
Yeah.
So
good. That's good to hear. It is encouraging too.
Yeah.
And speaking of like-minded and encouragement, I shared this with you. I know I've shared it with our listeners. I was in Culver's the other day, and I'm ordering, and I get this little tap on my arm, and I turn around. There's this little lady, sweet lady, and there was another lady behind her, and said, "Hey, I really love your radio program." And I was like, "Well, thank you." And I thought, nobody mentioned my name.
Yeah.
Nobody said anything else. And I get this quite a bit about it generally, but yours as well. I'll have people come in church or something go, "I love yours and David's program. It's really informative and good." So I said, "Ma'am, how did you know that?" She goes, "Well, your voice, first of all. I heard your voice when you were ordering. And then she said, you used to be at a church and you used to sing at the church. And we remember you." I said, "Well," so I just thanked them for the encouragement.
Yeah.
It was really good. And that is encouraging. Like-minded people that are listening and hearing the things we're doing, whether it's a teaching segment or just an information and educational segment that we're doing here.
No,
it is encouraging.
It's encouraging. Makes me want to stop by Culver's here in a little while,
Yeah,
too.
just an ad for Culver's, right. You always get Culver's want to sponsor us? Yeah, we'll do that. Now, we've got a little contrast going on here. We talked about this, David. Good laws breed great outcomes.
Yeah.
Bad laws bring bad outcomes. And that we've got a contrast here. HB 278 that we've talked about before and many other good laws went into effect on the 15th of July here in Kentucky. Speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. So, on the 15th of July is the day if laws that or bills that pass the legislature in the session weren't deemed as emergency items to go into effect immediately, that the 15th was essentially the day that all the rest of the laws go into effect.
Okay. Yeah.
And that included House Bill 278 that you and I have talked quite a bit about. And that's the bill that does a number of things, but one of the things is it requires meaningful age verification on adult websites to ensure that children don't have access to these adult websites. And as you and I had talked, that had led to Pornhub, the largest pornography provider in the world, to preemptively shut down ahead of the law even going into effect. And we're thankful to the Lord for that. And they've done that in other states that have passed a similar legislation. Right. And so
they knew what was coming.
Yeah.
When the law passed, they knew it would be upheld because it's been challenged. I believe even in Texas, maybe,
it
right?
It has, and there's been other challenges, and this issue is going to continue to be litigated, I'm sure. As more states have passed it, they're going to probably try to find more ways to fight back against it. But we have been encouraging folks, like you said, it's a good law that has a good impact. We have a lot more work to do on this issue. We need to be forward thinking, I should say, and say we need to be looking how we can protect kids online from social media, from phones in general, whether that be at schools.
Yes,
absolutely.
That's right. Yeah.
So some of those conversation and ideas going on, but it's also a good reminder to say, and we're guilty of this during the legislative session, contact your legislators. We need them to do this,
vote
to
this
that,
or vote that, right.
and say, you know what, a good law that's gone into effect that is having an impact, take a moment to reach out to your legislators. This bill passed unanimously, both in the House and the Senate. So send a note just thanking your legislator for doing the right thing on this issue and encourage them. And so, folks, we've got to set up an action alert. We're just a simple message to thank your legislators for supporting this bill at KentuckyFamily.org. Folks, if you're on our email list, you would have got a reminder about it. Or on our text message list. We send out a text message as well. But just encourage folks to do that because like what you said, Greg, when laws and policies seek to do the right thing, to honor the Lord, and they can have a positive impact. And the other side of that is when laws do the opposite of what's in Scripture, they have sometimes an immediate negative impact.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But I said something last week, if you remember, talking about the Republican platform. talking about the sanctity of marriage, but then taking out that marriage is one man, one woman, basically stating that government is the one. If government is the one that gives us the rights, then why wouldn't they go into the schools and start indoctrinating our children?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they allow them to have porn sites, and it doesn't matter your age or anything? That's what we've got to be careful of. This is just deeper than just the law itself. There are foundational principles here that we've got to continue to uphold and help our legislators and others and voters and listeners to see that. Now let's talk about bad laws and their outcome, David, because it happened in not a neighboring state, but a big state.
Yeah. So, and there's been some media attention on this, but Governor Gavin Newsom in California signed just one of the most horrific laws that I have seen in the last few years. It is AB 1955, and this bill actually bans educators at schools from telling parents if their child comes to school and is quote unquote identifying of an opposite sex. Or asking to use a different name or use a different pronouns, inaccurate pronouns. And so California has actually passed a law that says you can't tell parents that their own children are coming to school and asking to essentially identify opposite of who they actually are.
Or be given hormones or be
and so
gender mutilation.
We know what's going on here. Obviously, there's been a lot of concerns, even here in Kentucky, about some of these things going on in schools and parents not being able. That's why we have worked here in Kentucky to try to increase protections for parental rights. And apparently this California law is in response to the fact that even in spite of the legal climate in California, there have been some school districts that were trying to do the right thing and inform parents. Look, at the end of the day, parents have the right and the responsibilities from God to direct every part of their child's life, and you do not lose those rights and responsibilities simply because you send your kid to a public school. But apparently, Governor Newsom thinks better. He thinks that the government knows better than parents do.
And has the right. And we're going to codify it in the law that we have, and we're going to use the school systems to implement or remove those rights from you parents and toward those children. That's the issue. That's a foundational issue. And so you see, and by the way, we now know that after that law passed, there was a major outcome from that, right?
We saw, and I'm sure it was more than just this.
No, but this is big.
Elon Musk, I saw in some of the, I think he mentioned this on X.
Yeah, he
did.
Yes.
That this was kind of one of the final nails in the coffin in terms of him moving some of his other companies, including X and SpaceX, I believe, moving to the great state of Texas, which they've already beefed up quite a presence there. But look, the reality, we've seen it in some of the numbers of folks leaving Kentucky. Greg, I'm originally from Texas. There was a lot of Californians coming into the Austin area where we used to live. And the reality is that, laws and policies impact the culture, and culture impacts the business climate, impacts the climate in which families want to have an opportunity to raise their kids. Absolutely.
It's about people and families.
So I will also share, I think I saw that there's already been one brave school district that is already suing Governor Newsom over this. And so we hope and pray that they find success. I mean, there's no doubt that at its core, this law is unconstitutional. But we live in an environment where we're increasingly seeing these divisions among states, where you have some states like California that are racing to erase,
take control of children,
erase parental rights, not to mention, abortion on demand, unfettered
gender
abortion action, all of those things. And so, like you said, this is quite a contrast between thankful that we live here in Kentucky.
Praise
California.
The Lord. God's
beautiful
country.
place.
God's country.
Beautiful place California is.
And some wonderful things and people.
Absolutely.
Sure. Well, speaking of education, and that's what's happened here, that's why it's so important for us to understand what Amendment 2 in this next election is going to be, right?
So Kentucky's going to be front and center on the issue of education with this Educational Freedom amendment that's on the ballot. Amendment 2, it's going to be here in Kentucky, and Kentuckians are going to have an up or down choice on, do we want to have an opportunity for school choice in Kentucky or not? And it's going to be an incredibly important vote. But we've been putting out some new resources that are just about the facts of what the amendment, because you're probably already starting to see and hear a lot of misinformation. And what's one thing that Amendment 2 would do if it passed? It would simply just allow the General Assembly to provide additional resources for alternative education options, including those outside of the system of public schools, and to provide more opportunities in local communities. What's one of the things it does not do? And this is something you're going to hear the other side has already been saying. It in no way eliminates the General Assembly's constitutional obligation to fund public schools, or in any way take money away from rural schools, some of the fear-mongering that you've already had.
Or the inner-city schools or whatever
This amendment is about a both and. It would help encourage healthy competition by providing an opportunity for quality education and outcomes in public and private and homeschool. It's really a all-of-the-above option that says, we want to see Kentucky have, and to have the General Assembly have all options on the table when we're looking to set education policy in Kentucky. As we have seen, and I wish everyone, and we'll have this posted on our website. If you haven't seen it, we've shared it on social media. The map that shows Kentucky as the outlier and every surrounding state in the region having some kind of school choice program. Right. Kentucky is being left behind on the educational front because we don't have options, real options for all families. And so that's ultimately what this amendment is about. And so
and there's more to come with that.
More to come, more to break down. Absolutely.
You're going to cover, and by the way, you're putting this stuff out about the facts that they can learn, what the reality of this is. Where will they be able to look for that, David?
On our website at kentuckyfamily.org.
Okay. Go there. Will you have a copy of this in the next Citizen?
We will.
As we move toward the election and those kind of things.
As well as the ballot language where folks can just see clearly what they'll be asked to be voted on.
Now, I have to say this. There may be some consequences where some of these do's and don'ts end up coming out that way, but that's not the purpose of it.
Right.
The purpose of it is to give more options, and we've said this before, a rising tide raises all ships. And everywhere that educational choices come in, that's what's happened.
Right.
The students and education has gotten better.
Right. And as you and I've talked, look, the one-size-fits-all approach that we have
hardly
here
ever
in
works in
Kentucky,
any
it doesn't work in any context. And so why are we surprised that it's not allowing us, the educational system in Kentucky, to flourish as much as it could? So,
all right, we'll give you some more on that. Please keep informed, keep listening, and thank you for that. Upcoming dates, David. I know we got one coming quickly. We've been talking about it.
For our listeners here in the Central Kentucky area, we're having a legislative update town hall next week on Tuesday, July 30th. We'll have a couple of our great pro-family legislators. We'll be sharing some about this amendment. We'll also be looking at some of the important issues that are to come in the upcoming session and some of the issues that didn't pass, and just having a good discussion about those with the opportunity
town
for
hall,
folks.
right?
Town hall.
And we got a couple more scheduled. We'll talk about those more as we get closer.
Absolutely.
And then maybe even some more on the horizon. October 12th.
Kentucky Family Forum. Save the date. It's going to be great.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Greg Williams, David Walls, and you're listening to The Authority of Love.